Fantastic. My name is Bill Lapcevic. I run customer success at New Relic. New Relic is a software company that provides software to enterprises, small companies, developers, and everybody in between for understanding the performance characteristics, behaviors, and the experience your customers are having with your online web properties. We've been around for a long time. I've been there for a long time. I started out there as VP of Business Development back in 2008. And I've been Vice President of Customer Success there for 2 years. It turns out this is the longest I've ever been in one place in my entire life, inclusive of these 6 years spent in elementary school. Do the math yourself if you've been at a company a long time. It sneaks up on you. I'm a father of two, a husband of one. I'm a fly fisherman, and I love to sing a cappella. And you're lucky I probably won't do that during the presentation. Okay, and you saw the title, Aligning Your Customer Health Metrics in a Technical Company. Who has kind of a technical product that they deal with? Yeah, lots of us, because we're in San Francisco. Excellent. And how many of you have a technical founder in the company who is not the head of customer success? Right. And how many of those technical founders have very distinct opinions on what customer health actually is? Yeah. This is the problem, right? I have an opinion, my CEO has an opinion, my president has an opinion, the marketing guy has an opinion, George Shaheen has an opinion, Benson Ho has an opinion. Everybody in the company has an opinion about what customer health is all about. And this got me to thinking, this is a really dangerous path to be walking, right? Because if you're not aligned with customer health metrics, and you don't have a consistent point of view on customer health in your company, you can get involved in a whole lot of mess, right? How many people are involved currently in a whole lot of mess because they're not aligned on customer health? I'm not raising my hand because we got there. Todd is in a whole lot of mess because he's not aligned on customer health. So it got me to thinking about one of my favorite Atari 2600 games. Everybody know the Atari 2600? Or am I really dating myself? Because I spent hours on that thing, and it wasn't even mine, it was my friends. They'd wake up in the morning, I'd still be there playing. Pitfall. Pitfall is such a cool game. Pitfall is a very simple game. In Pitfall, you're this little guy, and you just have to run past the scorpions, and the quicksand, and the crocodiles, and the snakes, and the barrels, and don't fall down into the pits. Yeah, it's actually not that easy a game, right? And it's just like aligning your health metrics. This is actually a real picture of Pitfall in fabulous 8-bit graphics. Many thanks to Activision for that picture. Okay, this is the Explorer. The Explorer has a number of characteristics. I think you'll find them familiar. Number one, he needs persistence, right? It's hard to get through the pitfalls of day-to-day customer success life, especially without being aligned on your health metrics. Number two, the Explorer has to use teamwork, right? I can't actually solve customer problems myself. My team can't solve them themselves. We have to enlist the support of our product organization, our marketing organization, our services and sales organizations, legal, the executives. Everyone in the company has to play a part, right? Again, if they're not all aligned, that could be a challenge, right? They have to have excellent timing and agility to jump over the barrels and get over the scorpions and jump on the crocodiles. And they have to have a strong customer view, a strong point of view on customer health. Okay? It turns out that this is you, this is me. We are the Explorer in the big game of Pitfall in our own company. So don't worry. It's a simple metric. What could possibly go wrong, right? Metrics are like quicksand in terms of customer health. And what I mean by that is they sound so simple. Oh, I'll just pick the top 5 metrics that indicate customer health. And then I'll put them in a dashboard, and it'll be really, really easy to tell if somebody's going to churn or not. How many people have found that's really easy? Not very many? No? It's not easy. It's quicksand. You can quickly find yourself drowning in metrics. And drowning in metrics that you think are important versus the ones that your boss think are important versus the ones that the customers think are important. Even simple metrics are quicksand. Single simple metrics. I'm going to give you an example. With New Relic, we put a little tiny agent on a server, right? We call that a deployed server. Simple, right? So naturally, one of the ways that you can tell if your customer is healthy is how much of their license have they deployed? What percentage have they deployed? When we started out talking about customer health, we thought that was a pretty easy indicator, right? If they're 50% or lower, it's probably red, and that's dangerous. If they're 75% or higher, it's probably green, and they're probably fine. And then we got to talking about deployment with our product organization. They wanted to know if we were talking about deployment percentage as a snapshot or if it was real time. They wanted to know which product we were talking about. Was it our browser product, our APM product, our mobile product, our insights product, or our server monitoring product? They wanted to know where the data was coming from. Was it coming from Salesforce? Was it coming from our product? Was it coming from finance? Right? They wanted to know where the official source of truth was. They wanted to know a whole lot of things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Suddenly, my simple metric that I use to tell whether a customer is healthy or not, no one understands in the company. Not only do we not understand, we're not aligned, we can't collect the same data. I had the product manager saying, a customer was 50% deployed, and I was saying it was 75% deployed. So he would go to my boss and say, this customer is unhealthy. And I'd say, no, wait a minute, it's healthy. What are you talking about? And he said, well, when did you get your data, and where did you get your data? And we went through this whole rigmarole, right? Challenge, real challenge. That's how I felt, really confused. So I'm going to give you the cheat codes to solve this problem. There's some people up here who like cheat codes. He's like BBAA, up, down, left, infinite lives. All right, first, what do you have to do? You literally have to get everybody in the same room. You can't do this on email. You can't do this by talking to one person and hoping they talk to another person. You've got to go get all these people and put them in the same room and talk to them at the same time to align. We took one from product marketing and one from regular marketing and one from product management and one from the engineering team and one from finance and one from business operations. We got them all in the same room. And then we had to try and define the simplest possible version of this metric. Because really, deployment percentage actually is pretty simple, right? How much are you using versus how much have you licensed? So once we did that, that became the base metric, the thing against which all other interpretations of that metric were based, right? And anyone who wanted to say, well, I want to only know on the 1st of March each year what their deployment is, or I want to know in real time, or what the average was over the last month, right? They could use that metric when they presented this information in the company, but they had to define how they got there from the base metric, right? So we were always talking apples to apples. This was not easy to get them to. It took meeting after meeting after meeting, but it was worth it. And here's your pro tip. Be prescriptive. You probably have the best point of view on this. Walk in and tell everybody what that simple metric is. We walked in and said, look, stop being complex. We've got a simple metric. We've got a numerator and a denominator. Let's just use that and then go from there. We'll iterate after that. Okay, who knows what these are? If you say alligators, you're wrong. They're crocodiles, as my son would tell you. And they have really ugly red eyes. I don't think I noticed that when I put the slide up here. So in Pitfall, you've got to literally bounce across a bunch of crocodiles that are in the pond to get to the other side to continue running. To me, the crocodiles are all the people who have their favorite pet metric that indicates customer health in your organization. Some of these are very powerful people. Like I said at the beginning, our CEO, our president, right? So here is a partial list, of some of the top metrics in our company, right? These all came from various people. I know you're laughing at the maturity of the customer one. That is a funny one. And it turns out that that's the president's favorite. There's the CEO's favorite. There's product marketing's favorite. That's adoption marketing's favorite. That's my mom's favorite. And there's my favorite. How healthy did the last exec who talked to the customer actually think it was? Right? What a mess. And the problem is that you end up in fire drill land. And we experienced this. My CEO went to a conference, and 6 hours before he was supposed to land, the president called me and said, hey, we've got this list of our top 100 accounts. We need to know if they're healthy or not, and why. We all got in a room and took 4 hours talking to each person to try and figure out were they healthy or not, right? Because I didn't really know what metric he was thinking of for health. So I had to guess. That's a really uncomfortable situation. Fortunately, our explorer has this trick up his sleeve. He's got a vine. You know, swing across the alligators. We can get across the alligators pretty easily, and I'm going to show you how with the crocodile. See, I did it myself. The crocodile cheat code. All right. Focus on what the company needs most from customer success. You've probably heard this a number of times, but in order to define what the most important metric is, you have to know what your mandate is in customer success. Is it retention? Is it expansion? Is it product engagement? Right? It could be a variety of other things. There's all sorts of reasons that customer success exists. For us, it turns out, for New Relic, there were 2 primary things that we needed to be doing. One was product engagement, right? We needed to make sure that people were using the product because we know that we have a good product, and when people use it, they like it and they stay. Number 2, we needed to be good at risk assessment, understanding the factors that caused customers to leave and identifying them early on before they were so bad that the customer would leave, and then escalating the hell out of them until somebody did something, right? So once we understood that, it became much easier to figure out which of the many varying opinions were important. Then we looked at, since we need to know product engagement and we need to know retention, like what are the risk assessment factors, we said, let's prioritize what we have. What's the first order problem, right? What's the problem that if we don't solve that, none of the rest of it matters? I'm going to take you through that in a second. And then we had to align with the rest of the org. Again, we gathered the experts, we put them in a room, we locked the door, we threw pizzas under the door until they all understood, right? And it works, but it's painful, but it works, right? And then we started using these new health metrics, this new health point of view, right? And we made the data visible to everybody. Not only the data visible, but the results visible, right? Were we successful using this in stopping churn? Okay. And then pro tip, don't let your ego get in the way. I don't know everything, right? And I learned that during the process. Right? I thought that one of our executives was out to lunch on what they were thinking. Turns out they actually had a really good thought. And once I figured that out, we ended up with a better set of assessment tools. Okay, so here's where we ended. Deployment. Right, we talked about that. But deployment is specifically interesting because it's could they even use the product if they wanted to? Right? You can't use the product, you can't get value. Number 2, how many users are actually trying to use the product, right? Monthly active users. Then we're going to get into this features and capabilities, the maturity of the use. How are people using it? And how can we drive better and stronger usage of our product to create value? And then finally, this one that I hear every once in a while, customer sentiment. We look at that too. It could be NPS. It could be have they taken education. It could be are they opening support tickets. Are they making feature requests. Whatever shows that they're kind of engaged with our customer. Now, these are all numbers. But that CSM context is the most important one. Right? Next, you take these, and they are simply indicators that something might be wrong. For example, that deployment number, if it's 30%, that could be really bad. Remember we said 50% and under was red? But what happens if they just bought twice the number of hosts 3 months ago? Right? Twice the number of servers. Well, maybe they're at 30% because they went from 100 to 1,000. Right? And now they're at 250 or 300 out of that 1,000. They're at 30%, but that's actually good. Right? They're expanding. right? So that CSM context is really critical. If you don't ask your CSM, who has a lot of information, you're going to get stuck. So I'm going to run out of time if I'm not careful. We have a maturity scorecard, right? This is where we got complex. I'm just going to say behind each of these levels are about a dozen product metrics, right, that indicate the use of the product in various ways. We did this by working with the product organization to ensure that we were on the same page, right? And I can talk to you after the program if you're interested in this a little more. So I think we did it, right? We beat Pitfall, except I forgot about scorpions, right? Sorry, you missed that. Better check your shoes. It's time to take action. None of this matters unless you're taking action, right? Unless you're driving outcomes, right? So scorpions are the things that poison you later, right? You do all this great stuff, you've got all these great metrics, and people still churn. Why? Because you understood why they were at risk and you didn't do anything about it. You didn't put programs in place to prevent that risk from affecting the customer, right? So quickly, find all the places that these scorpions may be hiding, do your analysis, look at churn, talk to all the salespeople, talk to the customers, and develop your list of the top 6 or 7 reasons that customers leave your franchise. And then, every single account that's at risk, figure out if they were to downgrade, which one of those 6 or 7 things would cause them to downgrade. And then you can put programs in place to prevent that from happening, right, across your entire customer base. So what happened once we started doing all of this and once we became aligned on customer health? Number one, our average deployment across all our customers, 13,000 customers, went up pretty significantly, 5% in aggregate over the course of a year. That's awesome. Number two, the CSM assigned accounts are now renewing at 5 or 6% greater rate than those that don't have a CSM assigned. That means when we apply CSM context to those health metrics, we really can figure out why people might leave us, and then we can take preventative measures. Number three, all those irritating questions about is this account healthy? Is that account healthy? They all went away because now they trust that we know what we're talking about when we say this account is at risk and this account is not at risk. And then the product org is actually building more instrumentation. They're getting more metrics for us, but they're metrics that are aligned, so they're the right metrics. And it means we're going to be able to further enhance the complexity level of our simple scoring to be more and more precise. And then last, this is right from our customers and from our sales org, which are sort of customer success's customers. They're actually coming to us and saying, we want more of you. We want more people in customer success. We want the customer success org to be more involved in our biggest and best accounts because we see the value, right? And as a head of customer success org, what else could you possibly want? I'll just leave these up here, and then I think we have 2 minutes if you want any questions. So, thank you. Yes, sir.